The Lancaster Country Club's grand dining room glittered with crystal chandeliers and polished silverware, every detail a testament to my mother's obsession with elegance. It was their 40th wedding anniversary, Gerald and Patricia Foster, the golden couple, celebrated by 200 of their nearest and most socially impressive friends. Mom had orchestrated this evening like a military campaign, the finest caterers, calligraphed invitations on cardstock heavier than most people's rent checks, and a dress code that might as well have read Versace or bust. I sat quietly at table 7, near the back, far from the spotlight, just how I liked it. In my simple navy dress and understated jewelry, I blended into the linen-draped scenery. Around me, sequins shimmered and designer labels flashed like peacocks in heat. Apparently, honoring a 4-decade marriage required runway-level effort. Dad tapped the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen." The crowd hushed. All eyes turned toward the glowing couple at the head table. "Patricia and I are deeply moved by all of you joining us tonight." I knew this speech. I'd heard its variations at every major family event. He'd thank the guests, crack a few stories about their early years, and inevitably turn the spotlight onto the kids, a part that always made me brace myself. "We've been blessed with 2 amazing children," Dad said warmly, lifting his glass toward table 2. "Our son, Marcus, runs a successful dental practice and has given us 3 beautiful grandchildren." The crowd clapped. Marcus smiled modestly, his wife glowing beside him. He was, in every traditional sense, the ideal son: a stable career, suburban home, golden retriever dreams. "And our daughter," Dad's voice faltered as his eyes scanned the room. They landed on me. "Well, she's still figuring things out." There it was, that familiar punch to the gut. Apparently, earning a PhD in chemistry from Princeton at 24 didn't count if you didn't follow it with a job they understood, like becoming a professor or a pharmaceutical executive. "Dr. Sarah Foster," Mom said, smoothly grabbing the mic, "our little scientist." Even as a child, she was mixing things in the basement, nearly blew the place up once. The crowd chuckled. I forced a tight smile. "She's still dabbling in labs here and there," Mom continued, her voice lilting with that affectionate condescension only a parent can deliver. "Her little science hobby." A hobby. My mind screamed while my face remained still. 12 years of pioneering research, dozens of published papers, international conferences, and somehow I was still playing around in labs like a child with a chemistry set. "She'll find something more stable, we hope," Dad added. "Maybe teaching high school science, something with regular hours, good benefits. The kind of job they could understand, not world-changing work, not theoretical modeling or enzyme mimicry or carbon capture systems. They wanted something printable on a Christmas letter." What they didn't know, what they likely couldn't comprehend, was that I hadn't been lost these past 12 years. I'd been busy revolutionizing catalytic chemistry, pushing the boundaries of molecular design, and creating breakthroughs that pharmaceutical giants and energy corporations were now racing to adopt. But because I didn't have a corner office or a fancy title, none of it mattered to them. They couldn't boast about my grant-funded work or peer-reviewed prestige. It didn't translate, not in their world of clear ladders and conventional milestones. "We're just worried," Mom said gently. "She's 36 now. It's time she found some security." Security, stability. The words they always fell back on. But I hadn't chosen this path because it was safe. I chose it because it was important. And maybe, just maybe, I was done letting their limited definitions of success dictate how I measured mine. I wasn't chasing chemistry for comfort or a paycheck. I pursued it because I believed I could help solve some of humanity's most urgent problems. But of course, none of that mattered tonight. "But enough about our kids' career adventures," Dad said with a laugh that pierced like a pin through my skin. "Tonight is about celebrating love, marriage, and the wonderful people who've supported us all these years." A few chuckles, a few clinks of glasses. I sank into my chair, wishing the floor would swallow me. Around me, I felt the hush of pity from the other guests. To them, I had just been introduced as the Foster family's charity case, the brilliant but lost daughter, the academic who never quite figured it out. The irony was unbearable. Just weeks ago, my work in synthetic enzyme catalysis had been licensed for pharmaceutical production. The licensing alone was worth more than Marcus's entire practice. But because I published through the university, because there was no CEO title, no luxury car, no LinkedIn brag, my parents couldn't compute its value. Later, during cocktails, Mrs. Williamson approached, all pearls and polite interest. "Your mother tells me you work in science," she said warmly. "What kind of lab work do you do?" She meant well. I gave the simplified version. I always do. I research chemical synthesis, new ways to build useful compounds. "Oh, like medicines?" "Sometimes," I smiled. "My work touches medicine, energy, and manufacturing." She nodded, visibly trying to follow. That must be so fulfilling, even if it's not terribly lucrative. There it was again, the underlying assumption that I'd chosen meaning over money, intellect over practicality, that my life was a noble sacrifice. I smiled. It has its rewards. And it did, just not ones they could measure. By 9 o'clock, I was mentally calculating my exit after cake, maybe the first dance, then I could retreat to my apartment, to the silence of lab data and molecular simulations. Then my phone rang. A strange international number. I hesitated. Something about it felt off, or maybe right. I excused myself, ducking into a quieter corner of the club. "This is Dr. Sarah Foster." "Dr. Foster," a voice said with a Swedish accent. "This is Professor Erik Lindqvist, from the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences in Stockholm." My heart stopped. There was only one reason someone from the Royal Swedish Academy would call me directly. "I'm calling to inform you that you have been selected as this year's recipient of the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for your revolutionary work on synthetic enzyme catalysis and its application to sustainable manufacturing." My vision blurred. The Nobel Prize. The words sounded unreal. My breath caught. Are you certain?" "Unanimously, Dr. Foster. Your work has fundamentally reshaped modern chemistry. The announcement will be public tomorrow, but we felt you deserved the news first." I hung up in stunned silence. The Nobel Prize. For the work my parents called a science hobby. I turned and looked back at the glittering ballroom. My parents were laughing with guests, clinking champagne glasses, oblivious to the seismic shift that had just occurred. Without planning it, I walked to the center of the room. "Excuse me," I said, raising my voice over the music. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have some news." The room quieted. All eyes turned toward me, the quiet, awkward daughter. "I just received a phone call from Stockholm," I said, voice steady now. "From the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences. They've informed me that I've been awarded this year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry." A stillness fell like a dropped curtain. Even the waitstaff froze. "The Nobel Prize," I repeated, "for my research in synthetic enzyme catalysis, the same work my mother referred to as a little hobby earlier." My father's glass slipped from his fingers. Crystal shattered on the floor. "Sarah," he choked, "are you saying the real Nobel Prize?" "Yes, Dad, the Nobel Prize." At table 4, Dr. Peterson rose abruptly. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice trembling, "do you understand what this means? Dr. Foster has just received the highest scientific honor in the world." Gasps, stunned murmurs, phones lit up. Someone whispered, "Google her." And just like that, the daughter they pitied became the woman the world revered. Mom's voice barely rose above a whisper. "But, you don't even have a real job." "Mom," I said gently, "I lead groundbreaking research teams. My work is in global use. My findings are taught in universities, and just now, I was told it will be studied for generations." Mrs. Williamson approached slowly, holding her phone. "Sarah," she said, dazed, "the New York Times has called you one of the most innovative chemists of your generation." "I've been featured multiple times," I nodded. "My carbon capture methods are being used by energy giants across the world." Dad blinked like he was trying to wake from a dream. "Energy companies?" "And pharmaceutical firms," I added. "Manufacturing, too. My work powers more industries than I can count." Even Marcus looked shaken. "You never told us." I looked around the room, voice soft but firm. "You never asked." It was a fair point, but the truth was messier. How do you tell your family that you stopped sharing your accomplishments because every time you tried, they dismissed them as irrelevant? I did try to tell you, I said quietly. Remember when my first major paper was published in Nature? I was so excited. I explained what it meant, and you said it sounded too academic, too theoretical. Marcus's face flushed. The memory hit him hard. You brought the journal to dinner, he murmured, and I said, no one reads this stuff except other professors. Nature, Professor Martinez interrupted, eyes wide, is the most prestigious journal in science. Publishing there is like winning an Oscar for chemists. An Oscar? Mom echoed, dazed. And Dr. Foster hasn't just published in Nature, he added, oblivious to the family tension. She's published in Science, JACS, Chemical Reviews, every elite journal in the field. Her citation index is astounding. Each journal name landed like a thunderclap. My parents didn't understand the language of science, but they understood prestige and dollar signs. When I won the Breakthrough Prize last year, I added softly, I mentioned it at Christmas. You smiled politely and asked if it came with a check. Professor Martinez gasped. You won the Breakthrough Prize? That's a $3 million award. Dad choked. $3 million? Just the prize money, I said, not including licensing fees or research grants. Licensing fees? Mom blinked. Companies pay to use my research. The pharmaceutical applications alone bring in around $2 million a year. It was more money than they'd ever imagined. For years, they'd worried about me being financially unstable, while I'd quietly been building a scientific empire. Dr. Foster, a voice called from the crowd. I turned. Dr. Kim, Chief of Research at the Regional Medical Center. I didn't realize you were here. Your enzyme work is foundational to our cancer treatment trials. Thank you, I said. We were hoping to arrange a consultation. Your synthetic enzymes could redefine how we approach targeted therapies. Cancer research? Mom whispered. Yes, Dr. Kim nodded. Her work could change how we treat cancer, more precise, fewer side effects. I saw it then, that moment when my parents' reality cracked open. My science hobby was curing cancer, saving lives, changing the world. Then, Dad's voice returned to the mic. Ladies and gentlemen. The room fell silent. I need to correct something I said earlier. He looked straight at me. 30 minutes ago, I called my daughter someone who was still finding her way. I called her work a hobby. I was wrong. The silence thickened. My daughter, Dr. Sarah Foster, has just been awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. She's not finding her way. She's leading the way. He paused, voice shaking. She's not playing around in labs. She's conducting world-changing research, and I couldn't be more ashamed that it took us this long to see it. Then, softer, Sarah, we're sorry. We didn't listen. We didn't know how to listen. We judged you by our standards, never realizing you'd built a world far beyond anything we understood. The words hung in the air like an olive branch, or maybe a bridge. Dr. Foster, Professor Martinez stepped forward. Would you share more about your research? I think we'd all like to understand what a Nobel Prize in Chemistry actually means. For the first time in years, someone wasn't just asking to be polite. They actually wanted to know. I'd be honored, I said. For the next hour, I stood in a ballroom in a navy dress and explained synthetic enzymes to 200 wedding guests. I spoke of catalytic processes and carbon capture, of drug delivery systems and environmental reform. And for the first time, my parents listened. Not with forced smiles or distracted nods, but with real curiosity. So when you said carbon capture, Mom said slowly, you mean you're helping fight climate change? Yes, I said. And not just capture, it transforms the CO2 into usable materials. Is this important work? Dad asked. Professor Martinez laughed. Important? Her work could save the planet. The Nobel Committee doesn't hand out medals for hobbies. As guests began to leave, my parents approached, faces different now. Not disappointed, not confused. Something closer to awe. Sarah, Mom whispered, eyes glistening. I don't know how to apologize for the years we called you lost, when you were becoming one of the most accomplished scientists alive. Dad added, how do we even begin to fix that? I looked at them both, and for once, I didn't feel the need to shield or explain. You don't need to fix anything, I said gently. I never needed you to change. I just wanted you to respect that I was choosing a path of my own, even if you didn't understand it. Could you teach us? Mom asked. Tentative. Really teach us what you do. I'd like that, I said, and meant it. As we gathered our things, Dad pulled me aside. One last question, he said. Are you happy with everything you've built? I smiled. I'm doing what I was meant to do. I'm solving problems that matter. I'm making things better, and yes, I'm happy. He pulled me into a hug, the kind I hadn't felt in years. That's all that really matters. As I walked out of the Lancaster Country Club that night, I knew this wasn't the anniversary party they'd planned. It was something better. The truth was out, the masks were off, and for the first time in my life, my family truly saw me. The Nobel Prize was just the headline. The real win? Being understood. Like and subscribe my channel please.